Hey guys, welcome back. I am finally getting around to making my 5-star reads of 2025. You'll see behind me, it's hard to do with the reverse imaging. You'll see behind me a little chihuahua. It's my dog Lulu. She's usually here when I film the videos. I don't have a sophisticated background yet. The truth is, I just wanted to start this channel before I chickened out and didn't start the channel. So, more updates to come. Obviously, I will be getting a nicer filming background, nicer filming equipment, mics, whatnot. But I just needed to start putting videos out there, or I would never do it. So here we are in my room. And I am a little late to the 5-star of 2025 train, but I do think it's important because I'm a new creator on here to share I think there was 8 5-star reads that I had in 2025 because it gives you an idea of kind of the diversity of what I'm reading. I think it's actually a pretty good reflection of my taste and just the different books that I gravitate towards. And some of these books are from Libby, the library app. So some of them are audiobooks. Some are physical books. And I think even one was a Kindle book. So I'm just going to jump right in. I don't have the books to hold up. I usually, when I read something, I kind of pass it along. I do have a couple of them still left, but I'm just going to go ahead and put the covers in the space over here. So the first 5-star book that I read in 2025 was Cell-O-Vision by Augusten Burroughs, which was published in 2003. I read it in January. And that's kind of my sweet spot. That's 2003 era to 2010 is kind of when I became a very big literature geek. Basically, Cell-O-Vision, just a very short synopsis, is a behind the scenes look at a ragtag group of people that sell on like a QVC or home shopping network. This was kind of back in the heyday of that, before online shopping really became a thing, and they are working for kind of like a B level home shopping channel, and there's just a lot of drama, and it's also like kind of dark. I mean, there's stalkers, there's accidentally exposing yourself on TV. There's cheaters. I mean, it's just kind of scandalous. It was a very good book. I'm actually kind of surprised I rated it 5 stars because I don't know if it really is. I think it's more 4-star read, but as you'll see as I discuss these, my memory of what I've read is just not great. I don't know if that's because I'm in my early 40s or I just read 40 books a year and I can't remember everything. So that's number 1. The second book is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager, published in 2024. I read it in January of 2025. And I'll be the first to say that I do read Riley Sager's books on audio when they come out through the Libby app and I finally get my chance at them and the long line. And I like about half of them. I know he's a little controversial figure in like the thriller world. But yeah, I like about half of them, and when he hits, he really hits. And Middle of the Night is based around a man who returns back to his childhood home after 30 years, and it flashes back to him when he was younger, and he had a friend, I think they were like 10 years old, I'm not sure, but they stayed out in a tent in his backyard, and then in the middle of the night, the friend was taken and never heard from again. And so he kind of goes back to his hometown and things start to happen. And he tries to unravel what happened to his friend all those years ago. So I would recommend, I do understand though that not everybody likes Riley Sager. And I came to thrillers in like the middle of the pandemic. And so I'm not a huge like being able to predict, like I've read so many, I can predict what's going to happen. So I will put that caveat out there. The third book that I rated as 5 stars in 2025, I read in March, and it's Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. Rekulak? Who knows? It was published in 2022. It's about a woman who takes a nannying gig for a little boy who, or is it girl? Little boy or girl who draws disturbing pictures. And what's really funny is, you know, obviously throughout the story, she needs to decipher what those pictures are, and it's more nefarious than she thought. And there are a lot of twists. I do remember there's a lot of twists in this plot that I was surprised by. And it just kind of kept going. Like, it kept twist after twist after twist after twist at the end, which I really appreciated. And again, I know some people don't like this book. I think it's because, well, I don't want to reveal too much, but you can look it up. I mean, there's some reasons why people don't like this book around gender identity, I believe, and how the author handles that. And I didn't read it that way. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I thought it was a very interesting story. Kept me guessing, but what I didn't realize was you should probably read the physical book of this one because it actually shows the drawings. So, and the audiobook, obviously you don't see the drawings, and so I was reading it without realizing, you know, I'm trying to imagine them in my mind's eye, which I've mentioned before, I don't have a great ability to do that, as far as like visualizing things in my brain. So I think I would have benefited from the book, but I did hear that the pictures are very disturbing, like very. So, you know, and like the little horror freak in me from, you know, my teen years, I'm like, I want to know. So I might revisit that one, and in a text format versus audio. But the audio was great. The narrator's great. Number 4 on my list of books that were 5-star in 2025 is The Anxious Truth by Drew Lynn Salata. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was published in 2020. And it's actually a book based on what he talks about in his podcast, The Anxious Truth. And it's about anxiety and panic disorder and how they come about, and really what's happening in your brain when you're going through that experience. And it also talks about, you know, what are some steps, you know, it lays out clearly what are the steps to exposure therapy as a treatment for especially panic and agoraphobia. And I don't want to get into my personal too much yet on here, but since 2020, have been struggling with a dizziness condition that leads to panic attacks because you get so dizzy. So I found this book very, very helpful, but I will say it's self-published, and it is, you know, as someone who has been a writer and a paid editor for my whole career, there's a lot of typos. There's a lot of like, did he just like talk to text this book? If you're looking for something well written, this is not it. This is not a beautiful, masterful piece of writing. But, you know, as someone who was an editor, I did edit a lot of different people's work, and there was a voice there in this book that comes through. Now, should he have hired people to correct his typos and sentence structure and really help him kind of shape the book into a more conventional structure so it's more easy to understand? Probably. And not as repetitive. There were some repetitive things. I don't know if that was intentional or a mistake. So I will say great information, but know what you're getting into. Number 5 is All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman, and it was published in 2003, just like Celevision. I love this book. It was very small, very short, very weird. Again, like that era was just such a great time for people experimenting with literature. This book follows characters that don't have real names, like conventional names. Their names are their biggest trait, I guess you could say. So the main male character, he's called Invisible. And he is invisible to people around him that matter. And this is really important because the main plot of the book is he's trying to get back with his woman, and they're on a plane together and she can't see him. And so her trait is perfectionism. And so he kind of goes into their backstory and their relationship, and how this guy who was a hypnotist, whose name in the book is Hypno, of course, how he kind of stole her away from him. And it's just a really deep dive into like, it makes you think about like what would your name be in this book? What would your name be based on your like kind of toxic trait or your most prevalent problematic trait? So it's very strange, the book, but I very much recommend it. The sixth book I read that was 5-star was Now Is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson. And he has written quite a few different books now, a handful. I haven't read them all, but I've read a good chunk of them. And they're usually, 3-4 star for me. They're very unique. And he creates an ambiance in his writing that I think is very hard to do. The whole book felt nostalgic to me. It felt like I was looking back at my past, which I'm not. I mean, this is his book. And it centers around two misfit teens that are hanging out one summer, and they create this work of art that has, image to it, and then it has words to it as well. And the words start off, "The edge is a shanty town filled with gold seekers." And the author, I later found out, heard that phrase from one of his friends he thought was super cool back in the day, and he never forgot it. He never forgot that sentence. And so he created this book, which I think is really neat. And everybody in the town that sees their artwork, which they've, back in the day, you'd Xerox things and put them all over town, super like guerrilla art kind of thing. And they all think it has something to do with, the satanic panic that's going on at that time, or, they're guessing. And then there's all this lore about like who did it, and they're guessing. And they don't have any idea that it's these kids. And then it becomes like a cult classic thing. Even years later, the people are like printing it on t-shirts and hanging in their homes, and because it was just such a strange piece of art. And so then, the book also talks about present day and how the two teens had, lost touch. And so then at the end, they do get back in touch, which is a very poignant and kind of strange and sad moment. So I do recommend it. If you think of his mood while he's writing, it's just unbelievable how he can do that. So again, I always recommend Kevin Wilson, but this one was definitely 5-star. And then book number 7 that I finished at the beginning of December was My Friends by Fredrik Backman, and it came out actually, I believe, in May of 2025. So the most current book that I read, and my hands down favorite. I love Fredrik Backman. A lot of his books, again, I think are like 3-4 star, but then he just bangs out these amazing texts. And I'm one of those people that loved Beartown. Beartown spoke to me on a very deep level. Beartown reminded me of the writers from the early 2000s that I fell in love with. And his subsequent books, which I've read, I believe every single one of them, are not always bangers, but their writing is always beautiful. In my copy of My Friends, I have so many sentences underlined that really spoke to me, and I collect sentences that are beautiful, and this book is filled with them. Which is even crazier to think that it was written in Swedish, and this is a translation. It makes me wonder, what would it be like in the native language? Would it be as beautiful? Is this the work of a translator just really writing eloquent sentences? I don't know, but I love it. The book basically follows the story of two people who met because of a dying artist. So the dying artist met this strange girl behind an art gallery showing of his most magnificent work, and he's a very famous artist, and she didn't know that. She thought he was some homeless guy, and they end up painting together on a wall because she was into like different graffiti art and stuff. And he was so touched by it that he left her his most magnificent painting that is, pretty much priceless. And then his best friend, after the artist passed away, finds the girl, gives her the painting, and then it's kind of their journey back to where the best friend and the artist grew up, and he is telling the girl the story of, when they were kids, and it's really intense childhood. Very violent, very captures how a group of friends can bond on a very deep level. And I just found it to be just beautiful. It was just a beautiful book, and I honestly savored it. I read it from September 15th until December 2nd. I did not want to rush through it. I wanted to just savor every moment. So highly recommend Beartown. Some people, like with the whole trigger warning thing, like Beartown is about a grape, I'll say, that happens. But it's also just so beautifully written, and the character work is gorgeous. So I got to stop gushing. I know, I'm sorry. I don't mean to waste your time with that, but it's a love letter from me to him, to Frederick Bachman. So my final book that I read that was 5-star was Silent Night by R.L. Stine, published in 1991. I read it in December as part of my scramble to get to my Goodreads goal, as you've witnessed on this channel. I do want to do a Silent Night trilogy review, and I meant to do it in December, but it's taking me longer to read it. I had a bunch of family in town and whatnot, so I'm on the 3rd book, and the 2nd book, hated it. 1st book, 5-star. 3rd book, hate it. So, yeah, I will talk more about Silent Night in a subsequent video. But, I mean, just to get you the gist of it, it's about basically a spoiled brat rich kid who is working in her dad's huge department store. It's almost like a mall in itself. And she is just nasty to people, and then nasty things start happening back to her. So it's very interesting. I would say it's more suspense than horror. But, like back in the day, I did read R.L. Stine, and I was scared. So it depends, right? If you're an adult or not. But yeah, it's a very good book. If you can tolerate and appreciate how well he writes a total brat. I fell in love with her. I think it's hilarious. But some people, if you look on Goodreads, it's very mixed reviews that she's a very unlikable character. It's kind of the point. If you read something and you love it or you hate it, I mean, it's definitely a piece of art, right? So who knew I'd grow up and think that R.L. Stine is art? But yeah, that's the entire 8 books. Oh, I only had 8 books that were 5-star in 2025. So we'll see what happens in 2026. I actually hope I have a few more. There was about a 6-month drought of mediocre books this last year in 2025. So here's hoping that 2026 is better, and not only with what I'm reading, but maybe I'll level up my video editing. Maybe I'll get some nice bookshelves and do a different background and better lighting. Maybe I'll get a microphone. Please stick around and find out. I would love it if you would like the video. I appreciate you, and I hope you're still here at the end. Thank you so much. It means the world. See you in the next one.